This is Yeshe. He's 5 years old. He's the son of a Jewish American mother and a Tibetan father.
Sometimes people say to him, oh, you're half Tibetan or you're half American. And we say, no, Yeshe, you're 100% Tibetan, you're 100% Jewish American. You're fully both. And we're raising him to appreciate and value both traditions.
Yeshe attends both a Jewish preschool and a Tibetan Sunday school. Yeshe is learning both religions, both cultures, and both traditions. He's learning Hebrew and Tibetan. However, these are difficult languages for children to learn outside of school.
Adonai Eloheinu Adonai.
And so we're starting with Tibetan Sunday School, but we're also supplementing that with some tutoring and thinking about whether there's an opportunity in the next year or two to go to India, to go to Dharamsala for some time and do some immersion language. And I personally think it will be easier if I can learn some Tibetan, then we can speak it a little bit around the home.
This is his mother, Andrea Strimling Yetsampa. She was born in Newton, a suburb of Boston. She's working for the U.S. government in Washington, D.C. when she met Tsering. Ngudrup grew up in Tibet at the base of Mount Everest without electricity or other modern conveniences. He studied in India and moved to Germany in 1983. While there, he had 2 children, Dina and Doje. Then in 2000, he moved to the U.S. to work as an interpreter for high Tibetan lamas.
And we met for the first time, and there was not much of a Buddhist activity. I was just alone, staying in the house, and they came for a weekend or something. So after that meeting, it was some kind of a connection. There was instant sort of a feeling or some kind of a connection. And then later on, we met in other towns.
In 2002, they got married. Now he has settled into his new life. After all these years, he still has strong memories of leaving his homeland.
I was about 7 years old. During the first years of the Tibetan moving out of the country and living in Nepal, many difficulties in settling, not only in the terms of language and culture.
In 1950, China invaded Tibet. Since then, 1.5 million people have died trying to escape from Chinese rule. Ngudrup talks about the difficulties of fleeing Tibet.
It's such a process, many died. And within my own family, my mother and the youngest sister who was born at the time, both died. And my grandfather and many other family, I remember, died within few months of that. So there were a lot of tragedies and sadness and difficulties.
These memories are part of Yeshe heritage, and his parents want him to be aware of it. They hope that this rich background will enable him to make a unique contribution when he's older. While they enjoy a happy marriage, they are still making adjustments in terms of language, food, and boundaries in parenting.
I always used to call Tsering by saying Tsering, and I sort of yell down the stairs Tsering, because in my family and in my culture growing up, that's totally appropriate and extremely common, but it's not always polite in Tibetan culture. And even having been married for some years, it actually took me some time to learn that that wasn't necessarily polite. Food is kind of a challenge. So I've been a strict vegetarian since I was very young. So I've been a strict vegetarian for about 25 years. Tsering is a very, very strict carnivore, like many Tibetans. So it's very difficult to figure out what we can cook for the whole family. And Yeshe is 5 years old, and growing up in a culture where 5-year-olds tend to prefer macaroni and cheese and pizza. I mean, like any parents, we have different styles and different approaches to discipline. And so Tsering is, I think we're both fairly lenient, but Tsering is much, much more lenient than I am. And I tend to be willing to be a little stricter.
Andrea and Tsering want their son to understand the lack of freedom and threat to Tibetan culture. under Chinese Communist rule. Recently, they took Yeshe Doje to a day-long protest at Boston City Hall.
We think that Yeshe Dorje, because of this multifaceted background, has the ability to contribute things that are unique when he's older.